Welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving headfirst into something truly wild today. We're going to decode a dense, highly esoteric email thread and, quite literally, expose the calculated psychological manipulation that is hiding just beneath layers of New Age jargon. We are going to look at primary source emails, raw data that shows exactly how language is weaponized to completely control a person's reality, right from their inbox.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today's deep dive. We'll start with 1, the indoctrination template, then move to 2, scouting in the bait, 3, constructing fantasy tales, 4, love bombing and destiny, 5, dismantling critical thinking, and wrap up with 6, the high control trap. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The indoctrination template. To really grasp what's happening, we have to look at these emails not just as some weird, quirky conversation, but as a live, documented template of indoctrination. On the surface, this communication between Lisa Clapier, who goes by the name Pistis Sophia, and Paula Davis, known here as Voxmat, might just look like strange internet ramblings about peace and wisdom. But hey, don't let the flowery language fool you for a second. There is a deeply sinister architecture at play here. It's honestly a masterclass in behavioral control.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates the very first hook. It presents the target with the promise of secret, world-altering knowledge that only the sender can provide. By claiming to hold the ultimate truth about the Matrix, the handler immediately establishes a profound power dynamic. They're making the target feel incredibly special just for being offered the key to the universe.
Moving on to Section 2. Scouting and the bait.
Now, it's absolutely crucial to realize that targets don't usually just stumble into these high-control environments on their own, right? They are led there. This line from the emails is a huge piece of the puzzle, explicitly highlighting the network of individuals involved in funneling new recruits. It proves this isn't some random organic encounter on a forum, it is a coordinated handoff.
Notice the highly efficient recruitment funnel at play. We start with an initial contact point, someone referred to as grandmother, who then passes the individual to a scout, Thomas Schoenberger, who then funnels them directly to the handler, Lisa. It's a pipeline.
Section 3. Constructing fantasy tales.
Once the target is in the room and the handler has their full attention, the playbook calls for constructing an overwhelming alternate reality. Just look at the sheer volume of chaotic lore introduced all at once here. From Templars guarding an inner Earth called Ariani, to the White Mongolian Trust, to Mother Mary Rose supposedly owning all the Earth's gold. It's a lot, right? And that's exactly the point. This is designed to completely disorient the target. The human mind simply cannot fact-check all of this simultaneously.
And the claims just keep getting more intense. By presenting this incredibly bizarre, non-linear fantasy as absolute, unquestionable truth, the handler forces the target to abandon their grounded reality and step fully into this newly manufactured universe.
So the takeaway here is that this isn't just harmless storytelling or creative fiction. Actually, it is a calculated psychological tactic known as information overload. It's meant to exhaust the mind, so it just accepts anything. When your cognitive defenses are battered by endless esoteric history, you eventually stop trying to make sense of it all and simply submit to the leader's authority.
Which brings us to Section 4. Love bombing and destiny.
With the target's reality successfully scrambled and their mental defenses completely lowered, the handler moves in with the emotional hook. We see an intense influx of praise and validation, telling the target that they are essential to the universe and fulfilling this grand prophecy. Look at this language. Welcome home, beautiful sister, and your role is more precious than rubies. It's incredibly intoxicating.
In psychological terms, what we're looking at is classic love bombing. It is specifically designed to create an intense emotional dependency on the group or the leader. It's a deliberate attempt to overwhelm the target with affection, so they start associating the handler entirely with their own feelings of self-worth and safety.
By repeatedly emphasizing that the target is chosen, worthy, and part of a literal prophecy, the manipulator ensures the victim feels way too special to ever walk away from the fantasy. Because think about it, to leave wouldn't just mean unsubscribing from an email chain. It would mean failing the universe and turning your back on your divine destiny. It's a massive guilt trap.
Section 5. Dismantling critical thinking.
So what happens when the victim inevitably starts to doubt this wild, overwhelming story? Well, we now enter the absolute darkest part of the template. The handler proactively attacks the very concept of questioning. They label any logical doubt that arises in the target's mind as the anti, or a dark matrix-installed program,
If you have a doubt, they're telling you it's not a valid thought, it's a malicious virus. Notice how this esoteric cult language translates into a clinical command. Calling legitimate doubts wobbles or old programs is a genius, albeit terrifying, way for the handler to actively weaponize the target's own mind against them. This specific instruction is terrifyingly effective because it flat out tells the victim that their own intuition and critical thinking are actually just illusions, a literal hall of mirrors that's meant to trick them out of their enlightenment. By reframing dissent as a hall of mirrors or an old program, the handler traps the victim's mind entirely inside their control. If you can't even trust your own gut feelings or your own logical questions, you have literally no choice but to rely completely on the leader to tell you what is real. Finally, Section 6, the High Control Trap. This all brings us to the ultimate reality of what these seemingly flowery spiritual emails represent. When we look back at the mechanics we just unpacked, we see a perfectly executed 4-step digital brainwashing operation taking place right before our eyes. You hook them through a scout, you overwhelm their reality with insane lore, you isolate them with praise and destiny, and finally, you criminalize their own internal doubt. It is so crucial to take away that despite all the emojis and words of love, peace, and wisdom, this is severe psychological abuse, masking as spiritual enlightenment. It is a highly structured trap designed to enforce absolute control over an individual's perception of reality. I want to leave you with this final thought to consider regarding the digital spaces we all frequent. If a trap this sophisticated can be woven so seamlessly into emails about ancient mysteries and universal love, where else are you seeing these exact same indoctrination templates today? I highly encourage you to always keep your critical thinking fully engaged. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.